Alright guys, so in the previous videos you had seen the different functionalities that is being provided by the libraries as a prerequisites. Then you saw the procedure by which we can calculate, we can find the day of the week given a date. So as I had said, when we get an input from the user, we need to be careful with something, some extra facts like there may be a typo or there may be thing that is out of range. Basically that's not an invalid thing may be entered. You need to take care of all those things. We had seen an algorithm as well, sort of an algorithm, the procedure we had seen. So we'll go ahead and start coding. We'll get our hands dirty with coding. So let's start. So the first thing is something that is easier is you need to get year. So as we had seen in the documentation in our prerequisite videos, Python supports from year 1970. So if the user enters year before that, so let's get started with the coding. Python supports the year from 1970, right? So if a user enters some year before that, you should say that please enter something from 1970, some message like that, and ask him to enter it. So we'll do that part first. We need to get an input of year. So let me say year. Year is nothing but I need to get an input. Input generally it will be a string format. That's how Python works. So we need to typecast it to integer. Input. I'll have to say enter the year. Let me say 1970 to the current year 2018. Enter any year. Let me say that. I'll have to check if he has entered something like this only. If he has entered some other year before 1970, that is something less than 1970, if he has entered, we should say it's an invalid year. So I'll have a check here. If year is less than 1970, I should say print. Let me say, I have to say enter a year in the range 1970 to the current year 2018. So I'll have to say this, and again he need to give an input, right? So again I need to take it, and this must keep going till he enters a valid year. So I need to put this in a loop. So let me put while 1. This has to be continuously done. But while 1 is a continuous loop. There is no 1 is nothing but indication for true. So as long as it is true, I'm just giving a condition as true. So it will pass the loop and it will keep running. So when should I stop? In case he has given. So while 1 is nothing but an infinite loop, as you could see. That is, it will keep asking for inputs and keep checking. If it is an invalid input, yes, it's fine. You go ahead and ask for input again. If it is a valid input, again if you ask for input, is it something fair? No, right? We should not do that. So in that case, we have to break. We have to come out of the loop. We have to quit. So that's called break. Else. That means the year is something from 1970. That is 1970 or above. The value is something like that. Then you break out of the loop. Is what I mean. So I hope you are understanding this part. You get an input. Check if it is before the year 1970. In that case, you ask the user to enter again. If not, you come out of the loop. You do it inside an infinite loop, and once the user enters a valid year, you break, you come out of the loop. That's how the working is. So this is for year. And another thing is month. A similar pattern will follow for month as well. So let me just copy paste this block and I'll do the modifications there. Let me copy, let me paste. So here this is month, enter month. Month will take the value from 1 to 12, right? 1 to 12, right? January is the first month and December is the 12th month. It takes this value. And now the checking has to be month is less than 12. And what if someone enters -3? Is it a valid month? No, right? It has to be a positive value. So you have to check for the positive factor as well. And month is greater than 0. Greater than 0 is positive and it should be, it's not less than 12, it's less than equal to. Because the 12th month exists, right? So it should be less than equal to 12. If that is the case, it's a valid input. So I'll remove this, I'll change it. So if the month is within 12, if it is a positive value and if it is within 12, then it's a valid input. So I'll break out of the loop, else I'll have to say print, what shall I say? Enter a valid month from 1 to 12. So let me say that and say enter a valid month from 1 to 12. So that is how I got an input for month. So I hope you are understanding this snippet. It's basically you are inputting month, checking if it is within the bounds, that is it should be a positive value and the maximum allowed value is 12. If it is within the bounds, just say okay, you are done getting the input. Otherwise, you say that it's an invalid month, you have to enter some valid value. This is the range of the value and you continue asking for inputs. So that's why we are using an infinite loop. Once the input is a valid input, you break out of the loop, right? So this is how you have to get the input for month, year, month as well as date. For checking date, you should check if it is a leap year or not. Also, you should, based on that, you have to check what is the month that is being inputted and how many days are allowed in that month. So you should check that and get the input, right? So for that, first thing we have to do is we have to check for leap year. So let us define a function for it. Leap, let me say leap. It's nothing but check for leap year. Check for leap year. What is the input? The given year. So I have to check for leap year. Then same like this I have to get the input for date basically. So I have to get date, let me say date. Enter the date. And for date, we don't have a fixed range, something like that. So let me remove this part. But still you should check if it is a valid date or not. So let me say, I'll use a function here as well. I'll use a function check valid date. So what are the factors that determine if it is a valid date or not? The entered value of date, then the month, the entered value of date, the month and the year, and the factor that it is a leap year or not. All these factors determine if it is a valid date or not. So based on that, determine if it is a valid date. If it is a valid date, you break, that is you are done taking the inputs. Otherwise, you have to say that you have to enter a valid date. Enter a valid date. This has to be the message that has to be printed. I hope you are understanding the flow. Let me just give you a very quick summary of what we have done till now. The first thing is we are taking year as an input. Python supports from 1970. So if someone enters an year before that, we'll have to say that enter an year in this range. We'll have to say that from 1970 to 2018, the current year, you enter some year. Or maybe even if he enters some other year, it's fine. But okay, let me say, let me modify this message as well, because you can enter anything after that. So let me say from 1970. That's a very nice message. From 1970. 2 is not, because currently it's 2018. If you do it after 5 years, you'll have to change. People will ask for some other years as well. So it's all defined. But anything before 1970 is not defined. From starting from 1970. This is a nice message. So anything before 1970 is not defined. After 1970, that is from 1970, and after that you can give any year as an input. So we are getting an input for year. Then we are doing it for month. We are checking if it is within the bounds 1 to 12. And as well as we have to check, we have to get the input for date. And for getting the date and checking if it is a valid date, we have various factors. What is the entered date? What is the month that has been entered previously? What is the year that has been? And if that year is a leap year or not. So first we have to check if it is a leap year. Then we have to use all these factors to determine if the date is a valid date. And once everything is valid, you are ready to use these inputs into your built-in library functions. So here, as you could see, these things, check leap, check valid date, these are undefined functionalities. We have to define them. We'll do that in the next part of the video.